And I have lost my notes for Nitro, but it was, Brian, October 30th of the year 2000.
Yes, Nitro, October 30th of the year 2000. An update on the WWE Network. I still cannot skip forward or back without losing audio.
That sucks.
My network was totally down this weekend.
Wow.
I couldn't watch it for a couple hours.
Well, when it's down but no one else's is down, that's usually on your end.
Lance's was down as well.
It's Canada. This right here, I've had multiple people tell me this skipping thing is an issue on multiple platforms.
So this show opened, and I know we say this like every month, the night after a WCW pay-per-view. This had to have been the worst recap of a pay-per-view ever.
Yeah.
Well, it was one of the worst pay-per-views ever.
Well, that may be fair. It felt like a preview more than a recap. They just said what the matches were with no indications of what happened at all.
The matches were booked because of what happened at the pay-per-view, basically. It was stupid and convoluted. It was dumb.
But tell me what happened on the pay-per-view then.
Fair.
That's my point.
That's fair.
So here is how this recap ends.
We kind of heard some things throughout the show.
Goldberg is shown like entering the ring to fight Chronic. They're not even on the screen together. And Tony Schiavone screams, "Could this be our last standing hero in WCW?" And then like immediately, like the same sentence, he screams, "Good night from Las Vegas." I was so bewildered.
It was that quick.
So there's a new CEO. And he spends the vast majority of the show hiding in his limousine. A limousine arrives and just sits there.
Well, they did tell us right when the new CEO, yes. Sanders is the new commissioner. Mm-hmm. He beat the Shat.
Yes.
For some reason, we have a CEO and a commissioner.
And they were actually talking at one point about how there's been too many commissioners and CEOs and general managers. And the first thing they do is say, we have a CEO and a commissioner. Mark Jindrak and Sean O'Hare versus the Filthy Animals. So at the pay-per-view, there was a three-way match involving these two teams. Jindrak and O'Hare entered as champions. They won. And the reward is they had to defend their titles against this team again 24 hours later.
All I know is they had Conan on commentary.
Oh, boy, did they.
And listen, Conan was really funny, but at the same time, he just buried Jindrak and O'Hare.
He sure did.
And I thought, you know what? Jindrak and O'Hare are going to win. And boy, are these filthy animals going to look like absolute geeks.
And out of all the guys in WCW, these guys deserve it the least. These guys are good.
All he does is talk about how they suck and they're green. And he buries, I believe O'Hare is one of them. Says, I read an article where he said when he was a kid, they'd have sleepovers on Friday and Saturday and wrestle in their bedrooms. Wonder what they were doing there. I'm like, dude, God forbid kids have fun. That was the first thing I thought. Then the second part, I'm just like, what? And he talks about how they suck and they're terrible and they're horrible.
A bunch of salad tossers, he called them.
Then they win.
Now, I will say two things, Brian. I will say two things. One, there was a point late in the match where one of them turned to scream at Conan for a bit, and Conan says, see, I'm getting in their head. All this trash I'm talking, it's just a mess. They're really very impressive.
How do they hear it?
Well, he's a loud
very
guy.
loud guy, actually, and he's right there.
I've heard Mauro Ranallo.
So he tried, Brian, to your point, he tried to explain that he wasn't really burying them. He
probably figured out halfway through the match.
Now, as soon as he said that, Jindrak did some move, and the announcer said, he calls that the MJ Delight. And Conan says, who's MJ? And they say, Mark Jindrak. Conan says, oh, that's brutal. Now, listen.
Hey, listen. It's okay to bury, they come up with a stupid name for their move. There's a million things that you can bury Jindrak and O'Hare for. Haircuts, gear, whatever you want. But he buried them as wrestlers.
Yes.
In a match where they were going to beat his team.
It did happen. Oh, there's something else about this I was going to say, and I forget what it was now. But
the dancing dildos.
I have been told that annoying loudmouths burying pro wrestlers can be very profitable and enjoyable.
I see.
So, hey, I was down with Conan here. Eventually, yes.
You idiot.
Boogie Nights interfere. They hit a chart buster on Kidman, and Jindrak gets the win.
Yes.
And yes, the match was very good. I think that's the other key, is that Jindrak and O'Hare looked so good that by burying them, Conan was really burying himself. Like when he says they suck and you see some of the shit they pulled in this match, clearly they do not suck. Mm-hmm. Mike Sanders and Kevin Nash are having a chat backstage. Scott Steiner walks up and says, "Hey, Kevin," and then just puts his elbow in Sanders' throat. Because Sanders is the commissioner. Steiner somehow beat up Booker T, but is not champion now.
He was disqualified.
I see.
They never told us that on the show.
No. He wants a title shot against Nash. Suggests he gets what he wants. Sanders agrees, and after Scott leaves, Nash warns Sanders that as commissioner, he's going to have a lot of people in his face. He needs to pick his battles, implying just give Scott Steiner whatever he wants. A hardcore title match between Kwee Wee and Reno.
Okay, so Kwee Wee is covered in glitter.
I've never seen this with glitter in my life.
It's like he showered in it.
And I've seen some glitter.
He's covered head to toe in glitter, and he cuts his preposterous promo before the match.
What he says, Brian, "Don't make me angry. You've already made me angry.
Yes.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry."
That's what he said.
Yeah.
He said, "You rolled the dice on Paisley. That's unforgivable. Come roll the dice on me, and I'll roll you like I used to do with the power plant." That was at least good. The second half was better than most promos today. The first half was ridiculous.
So they had a hardcore match, which, did we mention we're sick of hardcore matches yet?
It sucks.
There was a really, really awesome bit where Kwee Wee did a running springboard sunset flip off the guardrail on the floor. That was really awesome. Otherwise, it's every hardcore match you ever saw. They fight up to the stage where the Natural Born Thrillers attack, and the Giants hit the big flying double Beal into the ring from the floor, and Reno hits the roll of the dice onto a trash can and wins.
This Reno cat, he's missing something.
Missing a lot.
Yeah, it was being nice, Vince.
I'm sure he's a tough dude.
Sure.
As exciting television characters go, he's not there.
No.
So Mean Gene brings out Hugh G. Rection.
The new U.S. champion.
At the pay-per-view, he defeated the team of Lance Storm and Jim Duggan to win the U.S. title.
By pinning.
Madden is sure to point out, yeah, but he pinned Duggan. He didn't pin Lance Storm.
Well, that's the storyline.
It's the storyline, but also the storyline is having a 2-on-1 advantage hurts you. Because one guy's vulnerable. It's a stupid thing, is my point.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was fine.
So, General Erection comes
It wasn't
out.
that the other guy was substandard. It was that one guy is the champion and one guy isn't. Like, the other guy can be great, but the point is, you didn't pin the champion to get the belt.
Right.
That's all he's saying. He's not saying, like, Duggan totally sucks. He pinned the guy that was horrible.
So
That's not what Vinny's saying.
My point is, if you're saying that he would not have beat the champion if not for Duggan, or he wouldn't
No,
have
that's
won
not
the
what he
match.
said. He was just pointing out that he didn't pin the champ to win the belt.
Right, but since he beat up two guys, Brian, including the champion and his friend, I'm going to go ahead and assume he could kick the champion's ass.
Whatever. There's a point to this.
It's not worth anything
storyline
about that I agree with. So they play the network version of the AMI theme, which is horrible. When General Rection comes out by himself, then he brings out the rest of the crew, and they didn't censor that one out. So if you ever wanted to hear the Misfits in Action theme, it's on this show.
They just must have missed it, I guess.
And weren't they paying attention? So he yanks the Canadian sticker off the U.S. belt. And then Hugh G. Rection talks about how great it was to have his little girls watching him wrestle.
Dude, Erection does his victory speech. "I can retire tomorrow with a smile on my face." Gene says...
There's a joke there somewhere.
Mean Gene says, "Erection, I want you to know how much you're appreciated by everyone in World Championship Wrestling." When Gene said that, I was like, what is going on here? And then Gene goes...
And then it got silly.
He goes, "Come on, everybody." And in the background, you hear... Nobody's clapping. And Gene's trying so hard. "Come on, everybody. Let's hear it for Erection." And then all of the geeks come out on the ramp. These geeks come out of the ramp. Like everybody in the... Yes.
Rection cut a promo saying he did this for the Conans, the Mysterios, the Kidmans, and all the other C-Team players.
Wow.
At which point, Conan, Mysterio, and Kidman came out, and Madden points out, look, they're admitting they're C-Team players.
All these geeks come out on the ramp. They all start clapping. They're clapping louder than the people in the building.
Tony is so joyful to see all these people. Look, there's Arn Anderson. There's Billy Banks.
Yeah.
What the hell?
So then out comes Bill Goldberg to get the big pop, put the guy over. And he says, Hugh Morris. He refuses to call him
He will
Erection.
not call him Hugh Direction.
Sure.
Hugh Morris, don't you ever think that anything you've done for this company has been in vain. I'm howling with laughter. Like, Goldberg knows every goddamn thing he's done for the last year has been in vain. He tells Hugh Morris, I respect you. The boys respect you. Everybody in the back respects you. Hey, my streak had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, is he a heel?
He thanked
That was the most backhanded. I was just gobsmacked.
Thank you, Morris, for losing to me and letting me kick your ass.
Then Lance appears on the big screen. You just hear, Rection! Rection! It's Lance Storm.
He's not wrong.
Screaming Rection over the deal. He says, yeah, you got the girl, you got the gold, but you didn't get what you really wanted, and that was to beat me. Therefore, I will give you the chance to beat me, but you must put the belt on the line. And Erection says, I already signed the match. It is 1-on-1 for the belt at WCW Mayhem, which I think does one of the lowest buy rates in the history of professional wrestling. Actually, I can't even say that. There's many pay-per-views today doing much worse than Mayhem.
Oh.
But at the time, this was terrible. Hey, listen, they tried.
I swear to God, that's what I wrote. They tried.
They tried really hard.
They did their best to make Hugh Morris a big deal.
But
here.
nobody was in the building. It was like an empty building. Nobody cared. It was comedy.
The CEO's limousine is still just parked there.
Oh, God. David Flair comes down to the ring, and he's got papers. Okay? So for those of you that don't remember, because we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, he and Buff Bagwell had a DNA match at the pay-per-view.
Right.
David managed to coax some DNA out of Buff Bagwell. He brought it to wherever they examined this DNA, and they gave him the results of the paternity test. I'm supposed to believe that this dumb shit didn't read the papers before he got into the ring.
They mentioned this.
He comes into the ring, and he opens it, and he says, it says there's a 99.8% chance that Buff Bagwell is not the father? I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? I know he's a heel, but this is so dumb. Then M.I. Smooth comes out. M.I. Smooth says, I got a bone to pick with you, David. Bagwell's mad at me, so I'm mad at you. He says, I never said that Bagwell was the father. I just said, I got a videotape, and if you watch it, you'll know who the father is. Which, actually, I believe is what he said. But the announcers are insistent that he actually said that Bagwell was the father. They're going against, like, nobody has any idea what's going on. And you know who else doesn't have any idea what's going on? Me. Because M.I. Smooth gets in the ring with David Flair, and he beats the shit out of him and pins him.
Yeah.
M.I. Smooth, I'm not sure has had a match since Chris Benoit beat the shit out of him in like 1995.
When he
Am
was
I wrong?
Ice Train, yes.
What is going on this
It's been
show?
years. Well, you wanted-
My no swearing rule broken again by this stupid segment.
You want to get a guy over, you haven't won in his debut. I got nothing to add. Jimmy Hart does a promo where he explains he has a new hobby. It's wrestling radio DJs, male or female, on Nitro. Basically challenges everyone who works in radio around the country. It reminds us all he's the man who knocked out Andy Kaufman. Which I don't think he was.
I don't remember.
I could have sworn it was Jerry Lawler.
That's why I remember. Yeah.
Clips of Jerry Lawler that I've seen. The Boogie Nights do a promo where they tell us they don't know why they're here, but they've been sent out there by Mike Sanders.
Right.
Then Bill Goldberg's music hits and they freak out. So I think, okay, no one likes the Boogie Nights. I can buy that. So Mike Sanders needed somebody to face Goldberg. He booked them against Goldberg. Fine. Then Goldberg comes out. He tells them they're taking up his time and they leave. What happened here?
Dude, I never know what's going on.
So I guess Goldberg beat Chronic last night. No one ever actually said this. He vows to beat his record. He tells all the boys in the back they're all next. This whole segment did nothing. So here's the idea for this next shot. They need a 5-second shot that shows a door opening. We'll see a man in a suit walking down the legs of a man in a suit walking down the hallway, and then we'll reveal who the new CEO is in the next segment. Mm-hmm. But it's WCW. They can't accomplish this simple task, and Ric Flair opens the door. The camera's looking up at Ric Flair's face and Ric Flair's shocking gold platinum hair, and then it pans down.
Well, Vinny, do you know how hard it is to do a pre-tape?
Apparently, it's incredibly difficult. I would say, Brian, it's impossible.
It is impossible.
It cannot be done.
Dude, they can't even do pre-tapes nowadays. Like on Raw and SmackDown.
Oh. You know what? I'm not going to let this being live as an excuse.
No, of course not. It's ridiculous. My point is they could have pre-taped this, or they could have just
pre-taping would have helped.
Film the ground.
But I could give your children an iPhone and say, don't shoot Daddy's face, and they pull it off.
Yes.
Not in WCW.
It's rampant incompetence.
There was a Bruno Mully joke in here as well.
What was it?
Well, Flair was wearing Bruno Mully's, and that's what OJ was wearing.
I see.
Yeah.
So Sanders comes out for a promo. He brags about beating the cat. He books Booker T versus Scott Steiner versus Mike Awesome in a 3-way tonight. It was going to be Awesome versus Booker. He has added Scott Steiner to the match because Scott Steiner was going to kill him if he did not. He tries to intimidate the new CEO without knowing who it is, and then, of course, Flair comes out. Now, Sanders debuted 2 or 3 months ago, and I was very much not a fan of his opening promo. Since then, he's been much better. He's been a perfectly fine part of the show, but boy, when he's in there with Ric Flair, and this is not Mike Sanders' fault. It's Ric Flair. This is a steep hill to climb. And
it's not even that it's just Ric Flair. It's a Ric Flair that doesn't care anymore.
So he's free to...
He's just like, whatever.
And Flair's doing his best to put Sanders over. Talking about how, I've been at home watching you. I've been impressed. You got the gift of gab. You're a good hand in the ring. He's trying so hard, but it's like...
Actually, he said you're a pretty fair hand.
Even better.
I laughed so hard at that line.
Even better. But God, Sanders just blown away in the spotlight here. So eventually he says, you and your friends are going to have to start wrestling by your rules. I'm starting by booking you in a rematch against the Cat. He dismisses Sanders, who leaves to go prepare for his match. Flair is given a state of the company address. He says, we got a lot of talent in this company, but we got a lot of problems. Because everyone who takes over in WCW has to mention the company sucks. He's here to make it the company number one again. Now, when my friend Lex Luger heard I was going to be CEO, he came to me and I asked him to look after David. And Luger took it too far. So Buff Bagwell, I owe you an apology. So I assume Luger interfered in that DNA match and got Buff's blood everywhere. But he's going to keep his word to Lex. This company will be run like a business, right or wrong.
All right, I love Ric Flair, but by this point, I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And he didn't explain it. He didn't explain the Luger thing. Luger had to come out and explain it for him. And then Jeff Jarrett comes out, and I just... it didn't even lead to anything. Jeff came out and threatened to take out Flair. Flair said, I'm retired. You're a great wrestler, but I'm the boss. This went back and forth for like 5 more minutes, and then it was just over.
Yes.
What was the point of that?
Don't know.
Besides to just drag this thing out for an hour.
I did like when Jarrett called himself the Chosen One, and Flair said, you're only the Chosen One when you're in a room full of girls. Is that an insult?
I was going to say.
No, that's not.
Because I'm pretty sure Flair's been in a room full of girls more than once. Yes, and then I wrote, this goes on a while. I don't think anything gets established.
So this just went on way too long. As much as I love Flair, it just went on way too long. And then Luger comes out, and now he's going to talk for an hour. And he rambles on and basically said, did anybody remember that Luger was like fired or suspended or something like that? I don't even remember. No. He basically says that he helped David, so Flair reinstated him and he's back.
The last time we saw Luger, he was helping Vince Russo in a cage match.
That's right.
No one mentioned that.
So then Bagwell comes out and cuts his terrible promo. It was so horrible. He managed to get out that he wanted to wrestle Lex, and Lex says, well, I can make arrangements. I'll get my gear. We'll do it later. Buff says, I got a referee right now. These two guys do a match in their street clothes. Mm-hmm. They go 10 seconds.
I was going to say,
they go 10 seconds and there's a ref bump. Luger then, and by the way, the ref bump is, within 10 seconds of this match starting, Bagwell tries a blockbuster, but he hits the referee with the blockbuster. Yes. I was talking about how stupid ref bumps are and they're preposterous.
Yes.
Well, that's one right here.
He accidentally blockbustered this man.
Yes, so he accidentally blockbusters the referee. The ref is down. They end up outside the ring, and Luger just beats him, throws him in the ring, racks him for the submission. I was like, what was the point of that ref bump? Did someone convince Buff that you're doing a job, but we're going to give you an out, the ref's going to take a bump? Was that what they tried to convince this guy?
I guess.
Because he looked like as big a geek as ever, with the ref got bumped because of him, and he still got beaten and submitted.
What was up with Luger? His big, huge bags under his eyes, his hair was all disheveled, he didn't look good.
He's aging.
I see.
Rapidly.
So, yeah. And then Lex called out Goldberg before and after the match. So, Pamela's interviewing Nash, Palumbo, and Stasiak.
This thing.
Palumbo and Stasiak are magically back together again. Nash says they will be a well-oiled machine. Stasiak apologizes for losing his head last week. And then, frankly, it's just everyone spanks each other.
Nash got Pamela to smack his ass.
She didn't want to do it.
She did not want to do this.
And she did it.
She very reluctantly. This one, don't do this, everyone. This is unprofessional behavior.
Yes.
It was funny, though. She was fine with Stasiak. But then Nash, not so much.
That's what happened. That's how it went down.
These thrillers. Oh, my God. Thrillers versus Chronic with Nash doing commentary. It's Stasiak and Palumbo.
The perfect event.
Okay, whatever their name is. First off, the fans chant, "We want Scott Hall."
And given the options in the ring, I cannot blame them.
Sure. Okay. So the match sucked. How could it not? It's the Thrillers versus Chronic. And Nash is on commentary, and he's making a mockery of everything.
Yes.
Stasiak walks out on Palumbo, who's making his own comeback, and Nash is only mildly concerned that he has walked out. They're like, didn't he say that he was back together with you guys? And as nonchalantly as possible, Nash says, he's schizophrenic. He's on medication. Just keeps watching the match.
He gave zero shits.
So then he just kind of says, he's no longer a thriller. And then Palumbo's making his own one-man comeback, but he gets cut off by Chronic. They hit the high times. Nash goes, and I'll leave a mark. So that's exactly what happened. The segment ends.
You got paid for this.
I'm like, I can't believe what I'm watching. They go to commercial, and they come back, and now Nash is going after Stasiak with a baseball bat backstage. Mm-hmm. I'm like, now you're mad? You sure weren't mad doing commentary on that match. You made a mockery of it. And trust me, Chronic versus the Thrillers did not need somebody to make a mockery of it.
It's actually, if anything, worse than all this, because the key is that Chronic was beating up Stasiak on the floor right in front of the announce desk. And Nash told Stasiak to walk it off.
Right, because he's the coach.
And Stasiak says, I'll walk it off. And he leaves. So he didn't just walk out of the match. He walked out on Nash. And Nash didn't care at the time.
No.
So as the Thrillers go to hunt for Stasiak, their old leader, Mike Sanders, is left alone. He has no backup for his match. Pam interviews Booker about facing Steiner and Awesome tonight. He says, Mike Awesome earned this title shot fair and square. Steiner bullies his way into this, but that's fine. Awesome wants to kill you as bad as I do. Don't hate the play, I hate the game. Mike Sanders versus Cat. First, the Cat has to cut a promo on how Mark Madden is fat and seeing him in the shower is gross. Has nothing to do with anything. You had to get that in there. Sanders tries to talk his way out of the match and says, I hope, Kat, that after my win last night, you are simply here to congratulate me. And he holds out his hand. And the Cat says, you stupid son of a bitch, I came here to kick your ass. And he beats him up. I laughed so hard at that. So Sanders got gear, which is an improvement, but did not help him here. Cat hits the feliner and pins him.
So after this match is over, okay, there's nobody that hates and has ranted about man-on-woman violence more than me, okay? But dude, Douglas appears on the big screen. I don't even know where he is. He's got no shirt on. He's in a boiler room or something. And he explains to Shat,
It's hot down there.
look who I've got with me. It's Miss Jones. So he's standing there, and Miss Jones is standing next to him, and he's doing his promo. And Miss Jones hauls off and she slaps him. And Shane Douglas says, you bitch! And he grabs her and he gives her a side backbreak over his leg. I laughed. It was so ridiculous. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
It was a parody of a parody. It was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It's like, first off, where are you? Why don't you have a shirt on? Why are you with her?
Why is she slapping you?
And your reaction is to grab her and give her a side backbreaker over your knee?
They're just standing there. She's not chained up.
No.
She can leave at any time. And he didn't say any, he didn't insult her. He didn't threaten her. All he said was, look who's standing next to me. And then she hauls off and slaps him. And he is so angry that he must perform a wrestling hold.
It was like something that you would see on a show making fun of professional wrestling.
Absolutely. Yes.
I was waiting for a laugh track. It was like so many universes beyond stupid that I'm sitting there laughing. Like tears are coming out of my eyes. I feel like such an asshole for laughing at this guy beating up this woman, but it was so ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
So it gets more ridiculous.
It would be like if she slapped him, he goes, you bitch, and he hit a mallet on the ground, and it sent her on a spring, like, up, and it was so beyond anything.
Well, what actually happened, he gives her a side backbreaker. And he did this because, of course, they're not in a ring, so he can place her down on his knee and drop her half a foot to the floor, and she'll be okay. But she, of course, sells it like death. The Cat runs backstage. They go to break. Now, of course, it's the network, so there's like a 3-second pause before the screen comes back from blackness. But imagine it's the year 2000 and you're watching this live on the comfort of your couch and you're watching commercials for laundry soap and bread and whatever else is on Turner Network television at the time. 5 minutes pass. The screen comes back up. Miss Jones has not moved. She was left dead.
Paralyzed.
By this backbreaker. And no one tended to her. The Cat runs in.
Hadn't thought of that.
Takes her, sits her right up, this paralyzed woman, tells her to straighten her legs. He's very concerned. He's screaming for help. But then as soon as one person gets there to help, he lets go. He looks right into the camera and says, Douglas, I'm going to take care of you and your floozy because I'm the greatest. And he leaves.
So ridiculous. It's one of the goofiest things I've ever seen in my life.
It's very strange. Pamela interviews Mike Awesome. Someone finally had the bright idea to take that 70s guy whose gimmick is that he loves 70s culture and fashion and music.
Right.
And they play 70s music during his promos.
Crazy.
Simple. So they explain that in Australia, at some point, Mike Awesome won this title shot. They never say who he beat or how he did it to win, but he won this thing. But bring Steiner on, he says, it's triple threat rules. And he explains it's going to be 2 of us versus 1 of you. Great baby faces. Then I will take out Booker T and I'll win the title. So the main event 3-way, Steiner versus Booker T versus Mike Awesome.
And by the way, they finally got the bright idea to put Awesome back in his wrestling gear.
That also helped. He did wrestle in trunks and boots and knee pads, yes.
His promo, though, with
but not for a
stupid
while.
music in the background. It was like he was actually doing drugs for this promo. When I watched it,
There's no drugs in wrestling, Brian.
like, if you would have told me, well, he wanted to live the gimmick. That's why we got this promo. I'd have believed that.
So Steiner does a promo where he explains, I'm paraphrasing, but this is what he said. He does not need the world title to legitimize him because he has big arms.
Sure.
His claim.
Right.
So
Well, and he beats up Booker every day, so.
that's also true. He beat him up here. Booker comes out. Awesome jumps him. They have a one-on-one match for like 5 minutes. And finally, they play Awesome's music and he runs down. Now, the good news is when he gets there, it's not what he said.
I just love that. The match starts and he's not there. And so the announcers spend minutes coming up with every possible theory about where he might be.
Put his gear on.
And then finally, he just runs down and starts the match. He was just late.
Yeah. He overslept.
All right.
So the good news is they did not do what Awesome said. It was not two men beating up Steiner for several minutes. It was just a three-way, which they called everything in the ring. And for a while, it was pretty good. Everyone had a right sense of when to do stuff, when to cut each other off, and when to feed a guy. And it did go a little long, got a little clunky by the end. But the finish made sense. Steiner was running wild, laid out Booker, threw him out of the ring, laid out Awesome, put him in the Steiner recliner. But then Booker kicked Steiner in the head. Steiner falls out of the ring. And as Awesome gets to his feet, Booker hits the bookend and pins him. Fine. It's a fine TV main event.
They've screwed Steiner multiple times. Even though he's the heel.
Yes. Well, that's also
They're
true.
building to the heel getting his big win, his triumphant win.
That is what's happening.
Yeah.
So you would think what would happen is that Steiner would attack the good guys and then security would pull him off. That's not what happens. Steiner is outside on the floor, mad that he has lost this match without being beaten, and then security just attacks him. He's just minding his own business, and they run down and
It was
attack him.
baffling. I couldn't, why is security out there? He's just standing there.
I don't know.
He hadn't attacked anybody or nothing.
So I think it went a little. The match was a little short because Booker had to kill some time with a promo. Says we can do this in the back, we can do it in the street, but I'm going to give the people what they want to see. And Steiner comes out, and the show fades to black.
That was the show, everybody. You ready, Vinny?
Yes, this will be short.
Really?
The finishes on this show were pin after interference, pin after ample interference in a hardcore match, clean pin, submission after a bunch of chair shots, pin in a tag match when one guy abandons his partner, clean pin, and clean pin in a three-way.
Hey. And some dude gave a girl a backbreaker.
Not technically a finish. There's no
guess
match
it's
there.
not a finish,
Well, it was finished for her.
All right, everybody. That is the show. Hey, tomorrow. You know what tomorrow is?
Best day of the week.
Tomorrow's Game 7 of the World Series.
Who are you picking, Brian?
So I'm just giving everybody ample heads up right now
Who's playing, Brian?
that AW and NXT
What sport is it, Brian?
are going to be beaten. They're going to be smashed. Okay? So, like last week, I don't want everyone on Thursday to be freaking out about these numbers and overanalyzing everything and freaking out. Don't worry about it. They're going to get killed by baseball tomorrow.
Man,
Doesn't mean that the sky is falling. It means it's Game 7 of the World Series. Do you understand?
the voice of reason, Brian.
Thank you.
That's not true.
All right. So anyway, with that out of the way, AEW, NXT tomorrow, NWA Power tonight, AEW Dark tonight, and Impact on Access tonight.
Yes, that's right.
That's a lot of wrestling.
It is.
Vinny and I will cover the
Some
two
of it.
shows on Thursday, AEW and NXT. Tom and I are going to be doing Friday afternoon covering Crown Jewel per his request. Got Observer Live coming up, all sorts of great stuff, so check it out. And that's it, everybody. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Adios.